Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another fine Wednesday morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Welcome to another coffee break chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, he, they pronouns. I'm clicking around to make sure I got everything squared away for you guys here. Looks like we're going out everywhere, and so welcome. Um, Got a great show for you today. We are going to be talking the Ballot or the Bullet, relatively famous speech by Malcom X on April 3rd, 1964, to Progressives 2024, Election 2024, Illegal Lotteries, Project 2025, and Microbusinesses, along with a few other topics that we have that I was just poking around this morning. Lots of news going on this week. Timothy Reimer will be our guest, West Philly Haunted Alleyway. And so just a little on Malcolm X's Ballot or the Bullet speech. He said, I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on that plate. Now it's time for you and me to become more politically mature and realize what the ballot is for, what we're supposed to get when we cast a ballot, and that if we don't cast a ballot, it's going to end up in a situation where we're going to have to cast a bullet. It's either a ballot or a bullet. I know some folks, in my circles, folks who are very disillusioned with the election, with Democrats, with political candidates, with politics in general, and they're considering casting ballots for third parties or casting ballots for not casting ballots, not voting. And going all the way back to Malcolm X, we can talk about, in 1964, how, the civil rights movement was making it apparent how valuable votes are, how valuable the black voting bloc is. Even though the black voters are not a monolith, even though there's no one black vote, there is a value to the black vote as a group, and influencing the black vote and listening to black voters, being represented and representing them in the national debate that happens in government. So it's disheartening, admittedly, to see and speak to Democratic candidates or Republican candidates, whomever you'd like, to support, and them to not be supporting the things that you find important as a voter. It's still important to cast a vote. It's still important to use your voting power, because without using your voting power, you end up in situations where the next step is to create a subculture, and that's where we often in this show talk about crime. We talk about the problems that create crime rates, that create any sort of anti-social behavior comes about because of people not feeling supported, feeling like the system doesn't work for them. So it's important to influence the system, to have the system, to try and have a system that works for you. It's important for politicians to realize that the way that you cure crime, the way that you keep your campaign promise, because everybody's promising, a better society. Everybody's promising to fix these problems. The way you fix the problems is to make people feel like the system actually works for them. When people feel like the system doesn't work, that's when you have problems. Anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox here and stop ranting, and I'm going to bring Timothy on screen. Timothy, if you could please introduce yourself, your pronouns, what it is you do. You're muted if you're talking.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hi, Timothy Reimer. My pronouns are he, him. I run a construction business in West Philly, as well as doing a bunch of neighborhood-oriented volunteer work, doing events for the kids in my community. We plant a whole bunch of trees, various things related to elections. My personal favorite is feeding the poll workers on election days, and then sometimes coming here and sharing my opinions.
Awesome. And so we have you on once again. For those that have watched the show before, Timothy is a regular guest. I love talking to Timothy, both at work and not at work. So welcome back to the show. We were just doing a job the other day and yesterday actually. Yeah. Timothy, you're really good at usually at predicting elections or talking about candidates, what it is, and seeing into what it is and what it isn't that the electorate is responding to with their campaigns. Um,
Well, then
um,
I'm gonna just, huge spoiler alert for everyone. Kamala Harris is going to win the election. In typical Republican fashion, I have already seen the results, and I can assure you this is the case.
so
But joking aside, Harris will win.
yeah, I don't so um you know my ostensible job as a host is to argue with you. Um, I don't have a good argument for you. I don't. I I along with everybody else have seen all the polling. It's super close. Of course, the Democratic and Republican national committees both have a vested interest in saying it's close right up until the polls close because of course, if one party or another starts predicting a slam dunk, turnout goes down for that party, and then it doesn't become a slam dunk. Um, so while I personally think it should be a slam dunk, what is making you say that Kamala Harris is going to win the election?
Well, I mean, so if Trump were running against Joe Biden, we would be in a much different boat. I mean, by
Agreed.
by changing course, I mean anyone was better than Joe Biden. There were many better choices than what we have, but it's just such an obvious difference in quality between the two candidates. I do not even like Kamala Harris, but she is still just obviously better than Donald Trump in every way. Um, we've had 4 more years since the last go around, and in that time, 4 years worth of old people have died. Old people are more inclined to vote in a conservative fashion. We've had 4 more years of young people getting being able to vote and getting registered to vote, and those people are far more likely to vote Democratic. In the interim, we've seen the entire mess at the end of the last election with the refusing to accept the results, and you know that put off a lot of people on both sides. Like a lot of Republicans got really soured on Trump after that. And then there's his numerous criminal convictions that is also souring people on him. And it really does not add up in Harris's favor. I mean, perhaps had Trump in some magical way embarrassed her terribly in the debate, but it was the exact opposite. I can't see the numbers working out in favor of Trump getting reelected.
I'm gonna go on a little tangent here. The there's always some sort of like response to any of those points. I live in the reality where your points are completely valid, but there's a lot of always feedback, and I don't necessarily agree with the feedback, but and also don't understand how it's so consistent that people can create this feedback. But like there was just the Madison Square Garden rally for Trump, where he invited an insult comic who tried to dunk on Puerto Rico for some reason. I didn't quite understand like why. And then there's the complete response, that the obvious response that hey, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and also it's a really cool place, not a floating trash pile. And then the response to that from Trump for the last 48 hours has been to claim that he's the president that has done the most for Puerto Rico. I don't. I don't recall anybody else throwing multiple rolls of paper towels at Puerto Ricans, but is there anybody else that you can think of in history that might have done more for Puerto Rico as a president?
I mean, as as a country, we haven't really done right by Puerto Rico the entire time, no matter who's in charge. So, I don't have an honest answer for who has treated them the worst or the best, but I would be hard pressed to believe that Trump had treated them in the best way
Yeah.
out of everyone. But given how they are always treated, I it Trump's nonsense may just be more of the status quo.
Well, I think that Trump's constant nonsense is to claim that he's the best at anything, or perfect in some sort of way. He still says that the debate, he won the debate with Kamala Harris, when I think objectively you can look at it as an entire loss. But
Yeah, I mean it's not even you can look at it as an entire loss. It was an entire loss. They put a rambling, incoherent old man on a debate stage with a prosecutor.
right,
And
who's really
as
good at her
as a
job.
result, yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris is really good at locking people up. So, it's not hard for her to dunk on a felon, and she did a very good job of that. So, I mean,
I mean,
people who are claiming that are divorced from reality,
right. I,
that it was anything but
I don't understand
just
where
an
the
utter
where the
defeat.
divorce from reality comes from. How did you're a Republican? How did your party divorce itself from reality? Like, why did it divorce itself from reality? Like, why is there so much pushback on reality, even by local Republicans? Like, like you, David O. There's a couple other local Republicans who seem to still have a grip on reality. I don't understand why so many Republicans, even local Republicans who, like, say, ran for office in Kensington, um, don't seem to have the same grip on reality that other conservatives who are in local politics have. Like, why they've bought into this national. Um,
Because they're assholes. Like
okay,
who lack a moral center. Like it's just lack of a better term. But also, like if we're going to give some local politicians who are Republicans a fair shake, our city commissioner Seth Bluestein is
yeah,
an
no,
all
he's
around
he's he's a
excellent
he's
person.
an excellent person and lives in reality. I don't understand. Like, why can't all Republicans just live in reality?
Well, I mean, the there's a story on how you get there, but the Republicans, made it their business to embrace, the right wing religious types, and religion is fundamentally not based in reality. So you've already, put one foot through that door. It's not hard to take the next step through at that point. And I mean, you have Trump, who is just a pathological liar who is incapable of telling the truth unless it aggrandizes him. So, people are inclined to believe that there's some magical person in the sky looking at you and judging you. Eh, it's not too much more for them to just believe whatever nonsense Trump says.
Okay, all right. So, yes, there's, the evangelical right, which really came about. It came to power because of the Tea Party, because the evangelical right is an easy way to mobilize relatively conservative people, but also people who are racist, and looking for a way to be racist without being called racist. Um, and they come from all walks of life. I do want to acknowledge that somebody posted a thing the other day that we like to accuse right wing racists of being like hillbillies and poor and constantly voting against their best interests. But there are a lot of uh, neo-Nazis and right-wing racists that aren't that description. They're wealthy. They're from they're from boroughs in New York, or upstate or central Pennsylvania, and they have multi-million dollars. And then, there's also people like Elon Musk.
I mean, there's assholes at all levels of society, and in all places. People with shitty opinions abound throughout the world.
So
I mean,
how
not just in our country,
So
but
what?
everywhere
No,
else
no,
too.
absolutely not just in our country. I was watching the Monday interview of the governor by Jon Stewart, and it was impressive to actually see um, a Jewish speaker hold him to the fire, a Jewish interviewer hold him to the fire because he couldn't be accused of being, anti-Semitic, uh, and like have that be the excuse why he didn't answer the question. So it was interesting to see him hold him to the fire and hold him to a middle ground that was actually a middle ground, which is he claimed to support a two-state solution. Um, and I don't think I've ever seen Shapiro actually say that before. And usually, like his usual tactic has always been to like kind of be like, no, I'm closer to this than whatever person asking the question, and therefore I'm going to just stick to my support of Israel, my unconditional support of Israel.
Yeah, I mean, unconditional support of anyone is a problem. There always has to be a point at which we just say, this is too much.
Well,
And I
and
mean that,
and to your point, there are assholes everywhere. Like we have
that
to
our
acknowledge that.
governor's one.
Yeah, we have to acknowledge that there are, and that was my point. Is like there, it was impressive to see somebody hold him to a conversation that he normally ducks out of by using the asshole excuse. Um, I would like to see somebody do that to Fetterman, but I don't.
I don't know. Everybody is getting exactly what they deserved by voting for Fetterman.
I did
Like
not
it's
vote for Fetterman. By the way, I knew he wasn't a progressive. I guess apparently before other people did, but I don't understand how that didn't become clear quicker to most people. But anyway, um,
good marketing.
yeah, yeah, good marketing. I I kind of modeled my business, my production company off of the production company that did his marketing for when he first started to run for office. But it's an interesting it's an interesting area because so marketing for a political candidate, and this is what the company did a little mini documentary, and if you've never had the chance to watch it, I'll try and find for Meg a link to it. But they did a little mini documentary about why they agreed to do the marketing for Fetterman. Um, and they agreed to do the marketing for Fetterman because they said that they believed in his politics. But the politics that they believed in was the progressive Fetterman, the Fetterman that was, essentially created for progressive voters. It's the same as the progressive Helen Gim or the you know um and when I often laugh, you chuckled, but I often laugh at, like, like the progressive positions in local politics aren't real, are often not real until you look into them and you find out who's actually progressive. And it often surprises people, like there are people that are actually progressive from across the political spectrum. Um, and especially in local politics, that's really valuable. But it's very frustrating that our national politics is always linked in with these movements, and then they get co-opted for you know the D and the R. So are there any local races that you find valuable to talk about right now?
Well, sure. I mean, it's sort of a lack of local races that I think is something, as Philadelphians, we should be aware of and talking about. Um, our state house delegation in Pennsylvania, members in the lower house of our state house are assigned based on population. Philadelphia has a huge population, so we have dozens of state reps. Now, I was looking at the numbers the other day, but it's like out of like over 2 dozen, like one or two of them is facing a challenger. Like that's it. Like it's just everyone else is running unopposed. Most of them had no opponents in the primary, and it's this lack of any accountability in having to face the voters. I mean, because if no one runs against you, you're just going to win anyway. Like this is how things get so messed up in our city specifically. And in some cases, it's not enough that you vote, but it's enough that you have to have real choices. And I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
think that gets
I was talking to a pollster um, about the lack of choice in this election because I know you're considering voting presidential for Libertarian or Green Party or somebody other than a Democrat or Republican. I have other friends who are also considering voting third party. Um, there is it to my way of thinking, there is literally one legitimate candidate for president of the United States, unfortunately. And it's nothing against the other candidates as far as who they are or the policies they represent. It's just the legitimacy of um, there's Donald Trump isn't a legitimate candidate. Um,
yeah,
the
but so like it's people are not going to accept that you have to vote for this candidate because of Donald Trump.
right,
Any candidate, like people are done with that. Like
right.
that's like and that's the thing that is giving Democrats a scare more than anything else. Because for the past 8 years, the heart and soul of their party has just been saying not Donald Trump.
Yeah, anybody but
And
Donald.
yeah, and they're when they lose that, there's going to have to be a reckoning of who they are and what they're about. But the average voter, it's not fair to say, oh, well, you have to vote for Harris because of Donald Trump. Like, people should vote for whoever they feel like will do the best job. Like,
Sure,
that's the responsible moral thing to do.
but if it,
And no, the truth is, it doesn't matter which one of these people wins. By and large, things are going to be the same.
yes,
Like for it's not going to be the end of the world if Donald Trump wins. Our country's going to be embarrassed for another 4 years. There
well,
are checks and balances. There's
I
some
don't think
checks and
that I
balances.
don't think there's enough checks and balances for Donald Trump presidency, but we can burn that bridge when we get to it. What I'm saying is, just like the third district with Dwight Evans is running unopposed in the third district. He's going to be reelected. Evans has done absolutely jack shit for the third district. The politics
Well,
isn't going to
eh,
change. It's going to be the same thing. Um, you know, for the next whatever his term is, it's going to be the same. And if you look at the even third party candidates, Chase Oliver, Jill Stein, for president, they're not legitimate they're not even on the ballot in all of the states. One of my friends' arguments was, well, Jill Stein is on enough ballots that she could potentially win the
270.
yeah, 270. And I'm
She
like,
won't, but it's not impossible.
it's not impossible, but it is
It
impossible.
won't happen,
Right, it won't
but yeah,
happen.
but
So
like that's just it. Like, I mean, do you want to vote for someone you hate? I mean, I already know how the
well,
election's going to turn
to
out.
be
So
quite honest, I don't want to vote for Chase Oliver or Jill Stein. Jill Stein
well,
has
then
never,
don't.
yeah, but Jill Stein doesn't have any policies that are worth anything. Neither does Chase Oliver. Um, and Trump
You have an
and
infinite possibility of write-in choices.
Trump and Harris both have the same policies as far as national policies go, as far as what's going to happen within the country. They're both going to erode the checks and balances of national politics and try and put more power into the presidency. They're both going to illegally deport people and enforce an immigration policy that for the last 40 years has been the dumbest thing that this country has ever done, and is impacting our economy so much that it's actually causing us to it's one of the leading causes of inflation is our stupid ass immigration policy. um you know
I mean,
they're both.
we are of a like mind on immigration. I mean, it's people coming to America is what has made America the country it is. It's the economic engine that our society is built on. And if we don't let people in, it causes the problems that you were seeing.
Yeah, it causes massive inflation. Well, it causes bubble economics. It's what creates all these bubbles, and also it causes the problems of, like, artificially propping up sections of the economy because we can't see what realistically the country can produce best because it's not happening. It's not being consumed. Um, anyway, I
All right, well, so back to local races real quick.
yeah.
So for not just the Philadelphians, we do have some statewide races on the ballot for our Pennsylvanians. Um, I would assume, everybody has made up their mind which congressperson and senator they're voting for. So I'm not even going to bother there. But we have other large offices. My personal favorite coming up is we have the Auditor General's office is up for election,
hmm
and I would like people to seriously look at the two candidates we have.
There's
We have a Philadelphia. We have a
There's
Philadelphian running, Malcolm Kenyatta, for the Democratic Party.
mhm.
Malcolm is a currently a state representative somewhere in like North Philly. I forget which district number is his. And then you have Timothy DeFore for the Republican Party,
He's the
who was
incumbent.
the yeah, he's the incumbent, and he was the former county controller for Dauphin County,
Hmm.
where Harrisburg is, which is one of the larger and more complex governments in Pennsylvania. Not nearly as large as Philadelphia is or Pittsburgh, but a large government by our standards. And as the Republican, once an election, I have to give you at least one good Republican you can vote for. And Timothy DeFore is in fact that candidate. He is a career auditor who has spent his entire career as an auditor or doing things like forensic accounting and stuff like that. He has received bipartisan accolades for the quality of his work, and he is just by far and away the most qualified candidate. Malcolm Kenyatta is a nice person. People most likely recognize his name from his failed attempt to get the primary for the Democratic senator last time. And and Malcolm is a nice guy, but he has no relevant job experience for being an auditor. Like, nor is his educational background in any way appropriate. He has a degree in communications, I believe, which is just not, even remotely resembling accounting. And
Um,
that's
so there are three other candidates: a Libertarian, a Solidarity Party, and a Constitution Party candidate. Um, uh,
yeah, I mean,
Goodrich is the Constitution Party candidate from Tioga County, um, where he runs a small private Christian school. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, he ran for Auditor General in 2012 and dropped out. Unsuccessfully ran for County Commissioner last year, and his party planks are ultra conservative party that favors gun rights, opposes immigration reform, and would leave the Nations and favors phasing out Social Security. So, as an Auditor General, you might expect him to try to find ways to cut uh, everything, but poorly. You can also probably say that for the libertarians. I love me some libertarian thought processes, but libertarians are not good at finances or understanding where money comes from and goes to. Um, just as a party, sorry, they're just not. And the American Solidarity Party
is running a child
is
basically.
yeah, and is based on the tradition of Christian democracy. So we have uh, essentially three third party candidates that are essentially just all about the social politics and have nothing to do with the office of Auditor General.
We actually we have four candidates because Malcolm's campaign is all about social politics
Sure, fair
and
enough.
very little about the actual office.
Right. Um, uh, Malcolm Kenyatta, obviously, I don't know if I would call him all about the social politics. He talks in his campaign stuff about being the underdog, which, to be fair, in most of his campaigns, he's been the underdog. Um, and bringing that perspective to the office, which maybe would be a good quality in an auditor general, looking out for the little guy, so to speak, or the stuff that is not as well supported. Tim DeFore transformed and says, quote, he transformed and improved the way the office does school audits and launched a statewide initiative to advocate for financial literacy instruction in K-12 schools. Oddly, he aligns with our current mayor in that regard. Although I don't know that his auditing of the Philadelphia school system would be as kind as the mayor would like, because she wants to go to year-round education, and I've yet to see a way that that can be budgeted into the Philadelphia school system without spending less per student on each student.
Well, you raise property taxes. I mean, that's the way you budget it in.
But you don't, because that's not how Philadelphia's school budget works.
It's where like it's like 50% of our school budget comes from property taxes.
Right.
Maybe it's like 48 or something, but it's a huge component. And then a like a third from the state, and then the rest is from other taxes and fees that the city imposes on businesses and residents.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, we could pay for it. We are adverse to investing in the future of our city's children, which is foolish, and it would actually be very prudent to do so. I don't know if year-round education is going to produce better results like the mayor believes, but anything that involves spending more money on the future of the city's children, that is what we should be doing.
I agree. I think we're of a like mind on that. I think for what it's worth, I'm not a what was that show in the 90s and aughts, West Wing. I'm not a West Wing Democrat, but I do agree with the idea that was pushed in like the third season or whatever, that education is the magic bullet. You want to solve any of the problems that we have today, you're not going to solve them today, you're going to solve them tomorrow. And in order to solve them tomorrow, you need people who can think for themselves and figure out how stuff works.
Yeah, I am financially conservative, but education is the absolute best investment the government can make with our tax dollars. Like every child who has a better education will produce more revenue in the future and will consume less government resources. It's an overwhelming benefit, not just for the children who are being educated and getting access to a better future, but for the entire society.
All right.
And it reaps massive rewards financially.
I agree. Let's segue into Elon Musk being sued by the city of Philadelphia. Speaking of spending resources and also speaking of children. Elon Musk, relatively famously, if anybody doesn't know this, Elon Musk is a natalist, which is a position that the future needs more children. It doesn't, but that's okay. We won't worry about that. There's plenty of people being produced around the world, and they're all equally capable of becoming something great. We don't need Elon Musk's DNA to continue the race, so to speak. But what we absolutely don't need is people like Elon Musk causing us to spend our government resources on lawsuits. I don't know if you think this is frivolous or not. I find it important because I think there needs to be put limits on people wielding their money as an amplification tool of their speech. I think everybody should have equal speech as well as free speech. But Elon Musk for those that haven't heard, has been having $1 million sweepstakes attached to the Donald Trump campaign through his America PAC. America PAC is a political action committee created by Elon Musk and funded by Elon Musk almost exclusively with his own money, and is spending money on behalf of Donald Trump for president, supposedly without coordination. But when you have Elon Musk showing up on your stage offering $1 million every day until the election in a week, to an individual voter in a battleground state who signs a petition supporting the Constitution, you may be violating election law. So, federal law bars anyone from paying another person to vote or to register to vote. And so, Larry Krasner is suing Elon Musk under illegal lottery law, which bars somebody from running a giveaway of money or goods that requires you to give something of value in exchange for your entry. The exchange, the something of value in this case would be your vote, and your signature on the petition. And so that would make it an illegal lottery under Larry Krasner's understanding of the law. And he's free to sue whoever he wants as district attorney of the city of Philadelphia. He obviously has standing for that because this is a battleground state, and so Elon Musk is running that $1 million a day lottery here.
Well, yeah. So let's be realistic though. The Larry Krasner suing Elon Musk has little to nothing to do with the election. It's about Larry Krasner's ego. Like that is what it is about, and it is using our tax dollars in service of his ego. Now, I agree that Elon Musk is a jackass, and that rich people shouldn't be allowed to just dump money into our elections. I mean, I don't know how we set up a constitutionally appropriate limitation on that, but there should be some kind of way. With the election law, it's fairly straightforward that what Elon Musk is doing is not illegal under federal election law. Like he would have been stopped by someone besides the Philadelphia district attorney were he actually violating federal laws.
You think
Like,
so?
yes, absolutely. Like by now, yes.
I
Like
don't.
someone.
I think the federal prosecutors move at a slower pace than that. At least the ones that are out there right now.
There's like dozens of different districts. Like some states have several for the federal prosecutors, and any one of them has standing in any place a voter signs up for this, and it's there's at least a dozen prosecutors who could bring this case federally,
Do
and they
you
aren't.
think that they have? So a lot of the problem for federal prosecutors is money and manpower. Do they have the money and or manpower to prosecute something like this?
Yes, the Philadelphia office definitely has the money and the manpower to prosecute something like this. The Pittsburgh, like I guess it's the Western District for Pennsylvania for the U.S. Attorney. They definitely have the resources to do this. I mean, any swing state, there is at least one federal prosecutor's office with enough funding to have a discretionary case. It's just what he's doing is carefully designed to not run afoul of federal law. And I mean, it's reasonable. I don't know anything about Pennsylvania lottery laws, but it's reasonable. I can envision a future or a scenario in which Musk's lawyers did not consider every possible law in all of the swing states that they could be violating.
No, yeah, and
They're just
also like districts like Philadelphia is relatively famously a what is it, city of the first class, um, and so it has somewhat separate laws that are applicable uh, as much as state laws would be in regards to things like lotteries and gambling and stuff like that.
yeah. Although I mean, I think the distinction here is just the state claims the monopoly on lotteries unless you follow very specific regulations. Because then like churches can have raffles and stuff like that, but there is a set of strict laws. I mean, I'm not familiar with the particulars, but it is something that people run afoul of. I mean, when I first saw the thing on the topics list for a second there, I thought we were going to be talking about people playing the numbers, but
Well,
no,
so
this is
the general like overarching lottery law is that you can't, like all sweepstakes and giveaways are separate from lotteries in that um there's a few tests, and these it's actually really been covered relatively well on YouTube lately because there's Mr. Beast, the Mr. Beast account, does giveaways all the time, and several of his giveaways have been pointed out to be afoul of the general lottery laws because to have a lottery is almost always illegal everywhere. Um,
yeah,
unless,
and it's something states claim as a monopoly over.
right,
Almost all states claim a monopoly over true lotteries.
right. And so the giving money for a ticket, the 50-50 will never get prosecuted because it's, like you're essentially donating money to the organization. They'll never come down on a true giveaway because a true giveaway, it doesn't require you to spend anything. And there's a lot of little things that are sort of like lotteries that they won't ever prosecute, but there are definite limits to what you can do. Um, all that being said, this is pretty far outside the limits of those type of things. Ask and bribing somebody essentially for their vote. I would think is even even if how he designed it isn't against federal law, I would think that even if it is against federal law, rather, I would think that you know he he has a habit of not listening to experts or like being the expert, so to speak, and then screwing it up. Like he's screwed up Tesla. Um,
I gotta. So I personally view Elon Musk as a jackass, but he's good at what he does. As much as I don't like the
he's
person,
good at hyping up things.
okay, but so Tesla, you said screwing up Tesla, and I had to look up the numbers. Almost half of all electric cars sold still in our country are Teslas,
Yes.
and like I was surprised it's still so much. Like I don't like Elon Musk, but the reason we have electric cars in our country in a real way is he built an electric car company
But he
that
didn't.
grew.
Like if you
Well, I
look at
mean,
an
I mean, he
engineer,
bought one, he invested it, he built it up. Like
if you
building a
if
car
you but
company
you
is
if you look at the so if you look at it from an engineering analysis, there's a good engineering analysis of Tesla up on YouTube. All the models up to the Cybertruck were already designed. They were already like the whole plan for rolling them out was already in place from the original founders. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, so it's not just having the plan to do it. Like the actual building a car company is a monumental undertaking. Like not just having the designs, having the engineering, like having all the parts, you put them together in a list, like building a logistical chain to support building tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of these cars a month, like a real car company. Like
but
it's
that's where I would say all of his failures are. Is Elon Musk doesn't seem to understand the laws of large numbers. Like, he makes off the cuff predictions or proclamations or ideas of where to take his companies and or products, and doesn't look at what's realistic for those things to actually happen. The Boring
I mean,
Company
but
and robo taxis and what his Optimus robot prediction. He said there's going to be three robots per person. That's
yeah,
that's
I
an
mean,
even
so
an ecological like resource impossibility. There's not enough resources on the Earth essentially to make three Optimus robots per person.
yeah, I mean, the dude throws a lot of shit, and only some of it sticks to the wall. But I
That's what
will
he's
still
good
give
at.
him.
He's not good
Yeah,
at
man,
he's not good at running a company. He's not good at like, actual engineering or anything like that. He's good at
I mean, reusable rockets, like drastically lowering the cost of putting thing of space travel.
NASA
Like
was doing that for 50 years before he had the idea and reinvented it.
but he got it right and is making money doing it.
He's
And
not.
then
I mean, there's a huge question as to whether or not he's actually making money doing it, because a lot of the money that SpaceX is showing as a profit is being moved around between Twitter, SpaceX, um,
I mean,
you
it's
know,
what. So here's the thing.
Tesla.
Even if he goes out of business, and all we have to show for it is reusable rockets, like I'm good with that. Like, it's the same
I
thing. Tesla goes out of business, but we had a mainstream electric car company come in and create a market for electric cars in our country and push us forward in that regard. If in the end he has nothing to do with whatever's left standing, I'm okay with that. But it wasn't going to happen without what he did. It's the same thing,
do
or
you,
it wasn't
I
going to happen
mean,
when it
but
happened, at least.
I don't know.
Like I,
I don't know that I don't know that I agree. I think he lucked into the right place at the right time.
I mean, you can't, you luck into the right place at the right time, like once, like maybe
Yeah, and
twice,
he
but
did it in a
it's
really
over and over again.
he did it in a really important spot. Like if you read
But
the
okay, the cars, the rockets,
if you if you read
now with like the
the
satellite internet.
so where
He
he lucked into the right place at the right time was with PayPal. That's where he made all his connections that allowed all the other things to happen. Because he lucked into the right place at the right time with PayPal. He was a good hype man in college, and he latched on to the guys that actually knew what they were doing with PayPal. And he's like, I'm gonna throw all my money that I inherited at this product because it's gonna be the next big thing. And he was right about that. And that is the only spot where he lucked into the right place at the right time. From that, SpaceX spun up because he was on a plane with one of the co-founders of PayPal
like
and with a big name investor, and he used his hype man skills to go, oh, rockets, they're awesome. Here's back of the napkin numbers. And if you read the biography of that conversation, that plane conversation, he literally impressed a guy by just starting to read a book about rockets.
so okay, but so nonetheless, we're coming across things he accomplished. Like the guy is an asshole, but he's getting shit done. Like I'm not here to say I'm like I don't want to be friends with the guy. I just
I think that
I want to
anybody could.
acknowledge.
What I'm saying is, I think anybody could have gotten the same stuff done. I don't think we need
But they
an
didn't.
Elon Musk to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want one, but when it comes to electric cars and reusable rockets and a satellite internet constellation, apparently we needed an Elon Musk and for PayPal. I mean, I guess as well. Like it's like I said, I don't like the man. I just give him some credit for what he's accomplished. And
Um,
it's not a popular opinion, but I stand by it.
yeah. I just the more I look into it, there was a famous quote, relatively famous quote by somebody who was talking about Elon Musk, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about electric cars, so I didn't pay attention to the negativity about Musk when electric cars were being discussed. But then he got on to satellites, and I know a lot about rocketry, so I started looking into it, and every idea he has is completely useless bullshit. So, and I had a similar journey because I love electric cars, and I love the idea of a mass-produced electric car, but his his contribution to all of this has been to bring the the software engineering mindset to hardware engineering, which, in my opinion, just doesn't work. You can't do the go fast break stuff with people's lives. It's just and to circle back to politics, the people are trying to bring that mentality to politics, including Elon Musk, and I don't want to see that happen. You can't move fast, break stuff in politics. You have an entire society that you need to support, and you need to take care of people before you decide to make new moves.
Yeah, I mean, on that we can definitely agree, and I like the rest of these rich assholes, like I don't want to see him or any of the other ones of them spending their money to move our government around in ways that the people themselves don't want, which is, what is happening with both sides, unfortunately.
Yeah. Um,
All right, what do we got next on the list?
just want before we wrap the hour, I wanted to talk about your haunted alleyway. You didn't get quite as much press this year, but you're doing the haunted alleyway again in West Philly, right?
Yeah. I specifically avoided the press this year. All news and media inquiries were turned down, at least from the
Except mine.
mainstream press. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't envision, briefly discussing my weird Halloween hobby, to make like hundreds of extra people show up outside of my house tomorrow afternoon. But yeah, like for people who didn't hear about it in the news or last time, in my neighborhood, I do a big haunted house thing for the kids. We clean out the entire block, the alley behind my block, and my neighbors let me decorate all of the alley in their backyards and whatnot. And then we have volunteers that do jump scares. We buy a lot of props. We build a lot of our own stuff. I have some friends who are in local eight, the Stagehands Union, and they give us a hand, crafting up some of these things. And it's a lot of fun. Like we get to last year we had 2,000 people show up. I hope to have a smaller number this year because it gave me liability anxiety nightmares. But
For those who've never produced anything, that is a real nightmare. Like you start like you get an event that becomes popular, and then you start thinking, "Oh crap! What if somebody trips and like hits their head on a brick wall somehow, or anything like that?"
yeah, I mean, we had some kind of off the wall behavior last year. motorists being motorists, we're getting impatient and honking and driving too fast when there's, hundreds of children around. And there's always a couple people who get drunk and do stupid stuff. It is Philadelphia,
Hmm.
but I'm hoping that it will be, a smooth production last year. I mean, I'm tomorrow, unlike some of the chaos from last year. But actually, even aside from the Halloween stuff, I have a special project coming up this weekend. Um, so I am a member of a group called the Cobbs Creek Ambassadors, and we are a group of Philadelphians and actually some people from Delaware and Montgomery County as well, who we come out on every weekend of the month and we clean up various sections of Cobbs Creek Park because the city of Philadelphia just doesn't prioritize taking care of the park. And it's a beautiful place and we want it to be clean so that people can enjoy it. My specific group of people, I work with the Philadelphia Mycology Club, and we clean up the park at Cobbs Creek and Thomas Avenue on the first Sunday of every month from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. A personal project of mine I've been doing there, we are developing a fruit orchard around the basketball courts and the playgrounds with the hope that the children in the community, if they have access to free fresh fruit, that they will avail themselves of it instead of, eating crap from the corner store. And I mean, I figure it shouldn't be too much of a stretch for the kind of kids who are playing basketball and coming to the playground to want to have some fresh fruit. This Sunday, being the first Sunday of November, we will be planting a total of 34 fruit trees. We have received a very generous donation courtesy of the Lower Merion Conservancy, and we are planting, I believe, four separate groves of things like nectarines, peaches, pawpaws, cherries, apples, elderberries, service berries, um, thunder plums. I've never seen a thunder plum. I have to wait a couple years, but there will be thunder plums apparently.
Cool.
I'm really excited to get that in. The the unseasonably warm weather gives me fear for the future, but it does make it much easier to plant a bunch of trees in November.
Yeah.
So if anyone listening is into trees and making a food forest, come on out on Tuesday. We will have refreshments and all the tools volunteers would need. You don't need any specialized skill or anything, just a desire to help take care of the park.
Yeah. Awesome. That is valuable. I grew up in a lot of rural areas, and had the advantage of my grandparents also planted fruit trees all throughout their yard and neighborhood. Um, and it is an amazing experience as a kid to grab a piece of fruit off a tree when you're hot and playing and just eat it. Um, be sure to put
Yeah,
some
I mean,
be sure to put some signage up on how people can identify the fruits that you're growing and that they can eat them. Because
yeah, I mean,
always felt like I was doing
we were
something wrong.
working that. No, yeah, we're working on that as the trees age up. We've been planting trees for 3 years now, but it's really a long-term commitment. We got like two pears this year and they didn't taste very good, but my hope is that next year there may actually be enough fruit that people could eat it. But some of the idea behind it, just in addition to encouraging children to be healthy, is that it is something, it is kind of like a magical experience for a kid. And I think it's a good way to connect children with nature, to then, and if we want to have an environment in the future, if people learn to appreciate it when they're young, they'll just grow up that way, and it will seem natural for them to want to be connected with nature. And I mean, for unfortunately, just we live in a city, so it's not like where you grew up and where I grew up, where there is open space and farms and trees and stuff that are all over the place. Like it's something that we can collectively do to make it just a little bit better for the people who come after us.
Yeah, absolutely. let's talk briefly about microbusinesses. You run a business, I run a business, I run several businesses. Um, Microbusinesses, we can do that, right? Like we can do things like take our time and resources and dedicate them to improving our neighborhood, where we live, where we work. Um, and I think that even what the federal government considers a small business, 25 or more employees to 300 employees, I don't think that they can reroute their resources as easily as we can.
I mean, there is something to be said for a sole proprietorship and building something that you control and you can set the pace for. Um, it's definitely a lot more. It's a lot more responsibility. But after a certain point, it becomes easier, I suppose. But I mean, I do appreciate the flexibility it gives me. Like I can say, all right, well, I'm gonna take this week off because I want to do Halloween stuff, and there's no angry boss to be like, no, you've got to fill out these TPS reports, and it's like, no, I'm filling out Halloween forms this week,
um,
or I can call up a couple guys from work and be like, hey, I need you all to show up at the park and help plant trees.
right.
And
I
yeah,
always I always find TPS reports hilarious because they are an actual thing. It wasn't just made up. But yeah, no, and I'm always talking about micro businesses because micro businesses definitely contribute more back to the places where they are than small businesses or macro businesses. Definitely more than I would say between you and I, we probably pay more taxes than Comcast does in the city of Philadelphia. Um, and we're just two people. I think if you added
I
all
mean
the
they pay more payroll taxes than we do.
sure, I guess maybe I don't know. I don't know what the current status of their kickbacks is, but I know that they wouldn't probably be in the city of Philadelphia if they weren't getting a substantial discount on what they would have to pay um, elsewhere.
That is definitely true. I mean, they have bought and paid for the city many times over. I mean,
Um,
you can see it in the way that they were able to whip up the anti-arena crowd to do their bidding.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I think there's some folks that are legit anti-arena. I'm legit
Oh, I
anti-arena.
mean,
I
yeah,
don't like I don't like it, but
no, I mean, not to say that there aren't many people who have their own independent reasons for not wanting the arena, but for those who aren't aware, Comcast is a major factor in organizing and pushing the anti-arena narrative because the Flyers rent their arena space from Comcast, and Comcast doesn't want to lose a tenant, which having used Comcast for the internet, I can only imagine the ungodly nightmare it must be to have Comcast as your landlord.
yeah, could you imagine trying to cancel that contract? Um, yeah, no. But yeah, I find it interesting because Parker obviously Comcast doesn't have quite as much political clout as they would like because Parker did get elected and Parker was pro arena before the election.
Beforehand. Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean,
go ahead.
I mean they're able to get the newspaper to write all types of ridiculous stuff. I mean, they put together that life science proposal,
Yeah,
and it was taken seriously, and they put together, the arena the stadium district redevelopment plan that will never happen. We're lucky we got a Chickies and Pete's out of them. Like there will never be mixed use development there. I mean, if for no other reason than that they need to maintain the open space for when these arenas reach the end of their lifespan and they need to build
They
new
need to
ones
build a
before they
new one. Yeah,
demolish the old ones.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, which is why it's a god awful open wasteland there. And but I mean that's not what we're not here to talk about that giant mess. So
No, but yeah, I mean, it is relevant to politics. It's relevant to all the races. Just because these major. So my point in bringing it up is micro businesses. We don't have as much political clout as the macro businesses, but we economically contribute more as a whole than the macro businesses do to the city's well-being. And a lot of, most of the micro business owners that I know are more involved in the city and initiatives to help the city and help their neighbors than your average citizen is. So, where are there any candidates that recognize this? Are there, like, there used to be candidates that recognize this. There used to be, especially like Republicans who recognize this. Are there any candidates, now that recognize that micro businesses are even a thing?
I mean, no, probably there are no candidates in this cycle that I'm going to get to vote for that actually care about helping really small businesses out. But I mean, presumably in some other town somewhere there exists these people. Um, I mean, they're certainly not in Upper Darby, that's for sure. But I mean, you're right. They should be because it is, like it's like not, it's not like Comcast might make a big donation to a sports league, but it's like, it's like the local accountant or something who's like sponsoring like the baseball team or the soccer team or something. Like it's the guy at the music store donating stuff to like the music program at your school so that because the school district's not going to pay for instruments
It's a small
like
local producer who donates, my friend who passed away recently. I'm doing a job that he did every year, and he donated all of his time, all of his equipment, and then only made the school district pay for the labor that he couldn't, you can't. I found out through my accountant that you can't write off labor donation. Like
hmm,
you can't write off if you gift in kind. You can gift in kind lots of things, but not labor. Um, yeah,
that's why I pay somebody else to do my
yeah.
taxes.
That's why I paid somebody else to do my taxes too. But so it's just so he didn't make any markup on that either. Like so. Like a lot of stuff that happens for people on a day-to-day basis is supported by micro business owners, sole proprietors, small companies that less than 25 people. And I don't think, it would happen if we didn't exist. Anyway, yes, I will keep harping on micro businesses and politics and saying that we need candidates that uh, understand
I mean,
economics.
I mean, anyone who's listening, like you don't think you can't start a business. There
No,
there are there are I don't know what whoever's listening is interested in, but I assure you, in a major city like Philadelphia, there is a market for what you're doing most likely. And if not, there's a big market on the internet.
yeah. And then I wanted to talk Project 2025, just real quick before we go. Uh, the, I I was flummoxed. I posted Project 2025 was recently redone as a comic book set of comic strips, because it made to make it more accessible to understand what the point of Project 2025 is. And I was flummoxed by a response to the post that said that it was that Project 2025 is essentially a democratic psyop, that it doesn't really exist.
Well, I would be flummoxed by that. I mean, that's a whole like 700 plus pages of nonsense. That's a whole lot of psyop. I mean, I think we could have gotten that across with like a tenth of it. But
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
like
pretty sure. Like to your earlier point about Fetterman, I think the folks that work in Democratic ad campaigns are better at making concise attacks that may be false flags.
I mean the Project 2025 message is pretty simple. It's push conservative values and shrink the government and privatize as much shit as possible.
I mean,
Like
and but are they
that's the
truly
basic theme.
conservative values? That's one thing I would like to get to. Like, are they truly conservative values, or are they just Christo nationalist values?
Well, Christo-fascist values.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess like those people got themselves in the driver's seat of the conservative movement. But I mean, small government, yeah, that's a traditional
Sure, yeah,
conservative
that's a
value.
traditional conservative value. Small government, yes. I don't think
Yeah, and
privatizing the small government was ever a traditional conservative value, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, I like so I went through and I looked at some of the Project 2025 stuff when I would see these ridiculous memes that people were sharing. And I mean, there was like the one about I don't have all the specifics in front of me, but it was the one about gutting Noah. And if you actually went through and read it, it was, focusing on the weather forecasting parts of Noah.
Oh,
Like, I
so
mean, there was,
that I mean that is a real thing. It's existed for a long time, and that was really that was part of Project 2025 because of the contributions of the owner of the Weather Channel. Um, Let me look that up.
yeah, I mean, well, it's just, it was vastly exaggerated from, like, they didn't want to eliminate it. They wanted to reassign portions of it. I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, some of it, our government is a giant fucking jumbled mess.
Hmm.
Like, there is definitely lots and lots of room for our government to do better. Now, that's not
I mean, that's any
the end
business.
reason.
Any business, any organized group of anything. There's room for it to be done better, more
Yeah, I mean, but
efficiently, with less waste.
that's the message that they're trying. That's like the kind of underlying premise that they're trying to sell with Project 2025 is that our government is wasteful and that it could be done better. But the reality of what they're pushing is they want our government to do less.
Yeah,
And doing less and doing better are very
are very different
distinctly
things.
different things
Hmm.
that are going to have vastly different outcomes for the health of our nation. And
Hmm.
doing better, yes, I'm all about our government doing better, but unless it's in very, very specific ways, like doing less, is not going to work out right.
Right. Yeah, you can't do less education.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't do less healthcare for veterans.
Right.
Like, there's just
You
and
can't you
so,
can't do less social safety net. Like, we barely have a social safety net in this country, and people are dying in abject poverty just because they're old. So you can't do less social safety net. You need social safety net.
you do. And honestly, that's, going back to where we started with the politics, like that's a big reason why, you see people, progressives and whatnot, are getting really mad and are just like, fuck it, I don't want to vote for either of these people. Like they go through, we see things that show us that the government can actually do the stuff we're asking for, but they choose not to.
Right.
So, yeah, they capped the price of insulin. Okay, that's the government showed us they have the power to set a retail price for a drug. Well, there's 10, 20,000 other drugs that people use a lot of, that why aren't those price capped? Like it's, you know, like you just we just get the tiniest little taste, just just enough to make some people feel good, and just just a little less than what it takes for most people to realize, oh shit, we're being fucked over.
Well,
And
in Malcolm X's speech, back to the title of the
yeah,
day, he
I need to
he
eat. Yeah.
he highlights that, he's not pro or anti Democrat or pro or anti Republican. He's just anti being taken advantage of. He's anti being lied to. He's anti people using him as a political tool. And that resonates with today, and with progressives of today, because you know in the Philly election, in the Philly mayoral election, um, in the national presidential election, there's a lot of lip service paid to progressive policies, but when it comes right down to it, the DNC backs down harder than the RNC from progressive policies. Um,
Yeah, I mean, people should look at the 2020 DNC platform and compare it to today. Like, and compare it to 2016 and 2012 before it, and just watch it march ever further to the right. Like, this time we've removed any reference to human rights.
mm-hmm,
The Democratic Party is no longer supports human rights,
mm-hmm.
at least officially. I mean, not to say that not all Democrats care about human rights. I really hope that they do, but that's not in their party.
Yep.
I mean, Republicans aren't doing any better, so no, it's the standard has been lowered so
It's
much
yeah.
that it's
It seems like the Republicans lower the standard, and then the Democrats go, "Oh, I don't have to do that anymore." Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I realized this the other day. I mean, at some point along the way, in my 40 something years on the planet, it was pushed into my mind that the Democratic Party was, supposed to be the party of peace, or at least not war. But I sat down with my brother and we were trying to think about it. There was basically not a time that we could come up with when we haven't been deeply involved in multiple conflicts throughout the world in my lifetime.
Yeah,
I mean,
I read a
there might have been a
statistic.
year or two.
Yeah, I read a statistic. I think there's been 12 years in the entire time the country has existed that we haven't been in a war, an open, active war.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, I hope it's not so grim, but I've been, looking at the news and like feeling like we've just yet to acknowledge that we are fighting World War III. Like, not that it's I kind of feel like it's already started, and I hope I'm really wrong about that. But neither political party has any interest in tamping down on never ending war,
Yeah.
and that I don't know how that could not offend progressives. I don't know how that cannot offend just people in general.
Well, it does. And unfortunately, what's our choice?
I mean, spend less on war and the military.
No, but
Our
what's
members.
our choice as voters? How do we affect?
Oh well,
How,
don't vote for a Democrat or a Republican.
and
That's your
then
that's your choice.
yeah, but
Like,
then you get what you get. Um, I guess. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I don't even have a good answer on this one. Like I think I long for the day that is in the future, and I don't know how far in the future that a third party will become viable. I think that, you know, as much as you dislike, you know, the
Oh, yeah, no, not those
working
people.
families party, I mean, at least it
The
brings progressive standpoints to the conversation.
No, they're like they're there supporting pro-genocide politicians. They're lining right up to gut the First Amendment in the name of censoring misinformation. You know, they're with setting up a ministry of truth. No,
Well, there's got to be
they're
somebody. It's not the libertarians.
they're
It's
not
not the Green
progressives.
Party.
They're leftists.
It's not the libertarians. It's not the Green Party. It's not. Where is the third party going to come from?
I mean, so for my money, this election, I would like to see the Green Party get 5% of the vote. I think I think it's within the realm of what could actually happen, and then they would be entitled for matching federal dollars for the next 4 years on campaign contributions for things, and that's how you build up a real political party. You know, it takes money. It takes people. People don't like the Green Party, but the truth is the Green Party gets candidates elected, hundreds and hundreds of them, like all over the nation. Uh, the division, like two divisions over from me, one of the election board workers was elected on the Green Party. I have an independent judge of election just down the street at two divisions towards Center City. Like it is possible to get people in. And yeah, Jill Stein's not going to win the election, you know, but the Green Party can come out a winner.
It's an interesting argument. I haven't. I don't know that I don't know that I agree with it. I don't think the Green Party is the way forward. I think I think the way forward is ranked choice voting, to be honest. But yeah,
Well, we got to change. We'll have to change the Constitution for that.
yeah.
Um, you know,
Well,
which
no,
is not.
not actually. You just need to change local election laws, but you have to change them everywhere.
mm, well, maybe I guess maybe through an interstate compact, it might be possible to force it through.
Yeah.
But that's outside the realm or my area of expertise. Anyway, I actually
Yeah.
do have to run because I have a busy schedule to get ready for Halloween tomorrow.
Yeah, I apologize for making the conversation so long, but as
No,
always,
no,
a great conversation. Um,
I'm always glad to chat, and you know I've been standing for the past like 4 days, so
yeah.
a good 90 minute sit while I'm awake is much appreciated.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me again. And I hope that your election prediction is correct, as usual. Folks should come out to your alleyway haunt and see what's going on in West Philly because from everything I've seen, it looks pretty fun. Um,
Yeah, they can we can be found at 51st and Catherine Streets in West
and are
Philadelphia.
you gonna have a little kids time this year again?
Any I be basically until like about dusk,
Hmm.
I'm not going to have the really scary stuff turned on.
Okay.
So, you know, that would be the ideal time for little children to show up on Halloween after dark unless children can handle you know, scary stuff. It's probably not for little kids. And then I hope to on Saturday have some early morning hours for people, but I haven't been able to work that out with my volunteers yet to see what time it will be. But also anybody who has kids in the neighborhood, you know, you're welcome to just, you know, track me down on Facebook or you know, send me an email at Timothy_Reimer@hotmail.com. And if your kids didn't get to come by and check it out, you know, I'm happy to open it up and let, you know, you guys go through it. at any time
Awesome.
before I break it down because I can I can't be taking the thing apart in December again this year.
Yeah, hopefully not. Thank you again, and thank you for what you do for the city because the Cobbs Creek volunteer work is also helpful. I'm gonna and we have that thrown up on our links, and so
Oh well, yeah, that's awesome. Really appreciated.
all right. I'll talk to you again later. I'm gonna go one up of me and outro the show. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
And thank you to you guys as well. Really appreciate you joining us every week. Tune in again next week. We'll do some post-election count election result work with Rick Lewis. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m. We'll talk. It should be interesting. I don't know that it's going to be as close as polling predicts. I think that the polling might be a little bit off because I think that the turnout is going to be different than what pollsters and politicos think it's going to be. I think this election will have a lot of new voters, voting blocks that people aren't predicting, and I think that the DNC does itself a disservice by going after traditional voting blocks and going after Christo-fascist conservatives at all. So-called conservatives. I don't think of them as really conservative. Anyway, tune in next week. We will bring you election results and talk about the future. And then we'll have another episode or two after that. And we'll take a break for the winter, and we'll come back at you in spring with more local news on the arts, on entertainment, on Philadelphia politics, and all of that jazz. If you like what you see, please support us. You can just promote our business with your friends. Hit the like button, hit the share button, share it to all of your friends, share the profile to all of your friends. If you hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you watch, you'll get a notification when we go live. And we try to go live whenever there's important stuff to talk about, but we also do this weekly show. So tune in next week and enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.